We've seen some amazing things, but that, my friends, is something we've never seen.
Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Brandon wants advice.
Brandon Cruz wants advice. You just locked yourself into the playoffs.
Nice.
Got it.
Talk with old Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Completely speechless, to say the least.
Man, I am honestly so baffled by that decision. Brandon Cruz wants advice. It's Brandon wants advice.
Green flag in the air. Brandon Cruz wants advice to the front.
It's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look at low-owned plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR that isn't a stupid question, feel free to send it my way at BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that is not my fucking problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. Let's get right into this one here, ladies and gentlemen. We're heading to good old Tallatona this weekend, for the NASCAR race. This is going to be a bit different since we are talking about plate racing on iRacing and all that. I was looking at practice throughout the weekend. I didn't stream. I didn't see a reason to, because whenever I was in there, either people weren't in there practicing, or if there was, it was one person doing like one lap to like see the line or whatnot. There really wasn't a whole lot you could see by jumping into practices at random times. The only times it was good was the practice races that they did throughout the week. But even with that said, there was only like 12, 13 guys in each practice race, so you really didn't see the field. I don't have any real like track data to really bring up to you, because everybody's running different lap times, whether you're running by yourself, whether you're in the back of a pack running the fast laps, whether you're in the front of the pack technically leading the way but having the slower lap. So there's not a whole lot of lap data to really go off of. It's not like me on these past weekends telling you what the tire fall off is, what the fall off rate is of the cars in here and there. We just didn't have that this weekend, so I just went ahead and didn't stream them. It would have just been a waste of time for me to really do that, and then everybody would be like, why aren't you streaming anything useful, and blah blah blah. So anyway, we're just going to talk about things that I think you should really focus on, and this is going to be more of a lineup construction video this week. Okay, so the way this video is going to go through is I'm actually going to have a couple slides, a couple things on the actual screen. So this is an actual video, not just an audio thing only. That'll come up in about 5 minutes. I'm going to go over what you think, or what I think you need to know, what the drivers are facing this weekend. Then I'm going to go into lineup construction, how I'm going to construct my lineups, how I would look at it, and the whole qualifying situation. We'll talk about that when we get there. This should be a shorter video. It should only be like 15 minutes this week. It's not a whole lot of nit and gritty stuff for 3 minutes into this. So let's go ahead and go quick. Shout out to Phil. Thank you for mentioning me in your awesome article. Again, I do appreciate that. You don't have to do that, so thank you very much, sir. That means quite a bit to me. Anyway, so let's head on. Drivers say it's going to be a mess this week, which I think it will be. I think anybody can tell you that right here. We're going to Tallatona, but, these drivers are just not... I'm not going to say good, because they're good. They do this in real life. But, this is a sim video game. It feels different. A lot of things they're having to learn. A lot of little nuances that are kind of messing them up here and there. So it's going to be a mess. NASCAR iRacing, they have to go green. The caution laps here at Talladega, the caution periods are like 8.5 minutes, 9 minutes long. It takes you about 2.5 minutes to get around the track, because I believe that I haven't ran any official races this weekend, so I don't know if they fixed it since last year, but used to, they had you only went like 65 under caution here at Talladega, whereas Daytona you do like 75, 80, whatever the pace speed is under caution. It's slower at Talladega for whatever reason in the sim. That's why the cautions take so long. I'm assuming that Fox is going to give these guys an hour and a half runtime on the national, the national channel, so like an hour and a half, block or whatever. They gotta do their freaking national anthem and, gentlemen, start your engine. I mean, that's dumb, in my opinion, to do it for this type of stuff. It's just weird. I don't know. It's strange. But they end up wasting about 20 minutes of actual, TV time doing that stupid shit. And, so these drivers have to get this race in like under an hour. They're doing 70 laps, I think. Under green, if the whole thing went green, it'd take about 50 minutes. It's not going to happen. I think we'll see 2 cautions because they have to throw the yellow if the leaders wreck. If it's big enough to where it's like 2 guys left, maybe they're going to call a yellow. But they're not going to call a yellow unless it's absolutely catastrophic. So I expect we'll probably see like 9 crashes that take out a good chunk of the field, and only 2 might actually get a yellow. So we got to keep that in mind. Things to note: the iRacing draft model. I'm going to go over some of the things in the sim that we need to talk about. But the iRacing draft model, this one is broken as well. They've destroyed this new Gen 6 car. I mean, it's absolutely dumb. Let me just tell you the small things they gotta think about, and that these drivers have talked about on their streams, and they've kind of chatted about. But the side draft doesn't really work. It doesn't work like it does in real life. It's switched over the years. I haven't raced this much in the new Gen 6 since they've done the update this year, so I don't know how it is exactly, but from seeing what other people have ran, it's pretty much the same thing. So side draft only works at certain times. You have to be at a certain distance away from the guy you're side drafting. In real life, you could basically be rubbing doors. You're making love down the back straightaway with the other car, and it's gonna help you out and slow them down when you're dumping the air on the rear deck lid there. And iRacing doesn't work that way. You pretty much need a space in between the 2 cars for the side draft to really work. Drivers are having to get used to that. The way the slingshot action works in this game, because it's a game, it's all calculated. There's all like these algorithms telling the computer what to do, how to give you the spood beast and whatnot. So the past years on iRacing, whenever you're bump drafting and whenever you're in a line, yeah, sure, you'll see people weave and whatnot, but if you watch some of the better sim racers on plate tracks, if you watch Logan Clampett, if you watch Seth DeMerchant, I mean, these guys are some of the best plate racers that I've ever seen. Mark Jorgensen Jr. If you go watch Michael Cozy on his streams, WinVal, these guys are some of the best plate racers on the sim. And over the years, you've had to manipulate the way that the draft model works, and so you have to activate the slingshot. So basically, you get behind someone, you get in their draft, and then when you pop out to the side of them, like say if you're on the yellow line, cars in front of you is on the yellow line as well, you catch up to him and you go onto the right side of his car to get that slingshot run. In the sim, it'll give you a boost of speed as soon as you exit their draft. Now, if you hop back in their draft really quick, it'll basically reset that. Then you can pop back out with almost, not twice the amount of speed, but a little bit more run boost than you would normally have. So that's why in some of the better races with guys who know what they're doing, yeah, sure, they might be, weaving up and down the track and everything, but they weave in and out of the draft, in front of them to basically like fool the sim into thinking they're trying to pass him, work that slingshot move and gain a run. I know that's kind of confusing, but it's not. It doesn't happen in real life. That's just how the sim works. You basically have to manipulate the draft model because I don't know. There's basically no draft model. These things just suck up and whatever. Let me pass that. Let me see. The last car in line is an issue in this sim. So basically, if you're single file, the last car in line will lose the draft. Unless the car second to last or third to last kind of drags the brakes or let off the gas to let that guy catch up. The way that the sim is made, the draft model, for whatever reason, doesn't help out the last car in line if you guys are all at the same speed. So say we're deep into a run. You're not getting a draft from anybody in the back. You're just in a run right in line, 190 miles an hour or whatever, and you're the last car in line. Everybody else will slowly start pulling away from you. You're just SOL. There's a bubble around you to where you just don't get the draft. You don't get the push from behind because there's nobody behind you, and you'll just literally fall away from the draft. So you have to worry about that in here. 2 lines will basically stack up. I know this is Talladega. We're a bit wider. We can go 3 wide pretty easily here. But the way that these plate races work is that basically, the 2 lines get side by side, and then it's a stalemate, regardless if both lanes are trying to push by each other, it's a stalemate. Nobody's going to gain any real speed. If you watch races, if you watch sim races, if you've done iRacing, you know that the only way you get a run is for somebody on the other lane to let off, to make a mistake, to slide up the track. You can't really generate runs. It's all on other people, letting off for a bit for them to slow down, and you just go by them because you didn't lose the momentum or the speed. That's how you make the runs here. If you want to really push, if you want to do a tandem draft, the way you got to do it is the first car in line, you're bumper to bumper, and the first car in line has to let off the gas just a tad to keep you connected on the rear end of their car. When you're on the rear end of their car, that's when you actually get the push. iRacing has it to where if there's any space in between the two cars who are pushing, you're not going to get a big of a run like you would get, in 2017, 2015, 2014, 2013, when the tandem was still on iRacing, all that type of stuff. They've killed the tandem. They're trying to artificially make pack racing and iRacing, and it breaks the rules of drafting, basically. So there's certain things you have to do to make runs work, and you can see that if you watch Dale Jr.'s Twitch stream, he was able to push because he was pushing Hamlin, he was pushing Castle during some points. These guys know to let off and get them to push, or let the car behind them push. The other guys who are just both cars or just full throttle, they're not getting the runs that other guys are getting. The third lane doesn't exist. Now it can, if there's enough people on the outside lane, it can get there, but you need runs, and you need the inside to be checking up. You need the inside to either be overheating, somebody making a mistake, somebody sliding up, or whatever, to get that outside line working. Oh man, I got blow my nose or something after this. Let's see. The setup looks a bit floaty from what I've seen these guys run. I can't run the setup because I don't know what the fucking setup is. And I'm not going to try and, make it to match what they're doing. But Junior was saying that the car's a bit floaty on the track. It's a bit weird. It just feels a bit weird, just floaty. If you know what that means, If you don't, well, then I don't know what to tell you, buddy. No one gets real runs unless you know what you're doing. I said that. Early in the week, people went to the outside lane like it was real life. Hey, let's go practice on the sim. Let's go hug the wall. They quickly realized that the iRacing draft model does not do that. You want to be on the inside lane. You want to be on the yellow line. And that's where everybody migrated to throughout the week. It's easy to blow a motor in these cars. These drivers are even talking about it. Very easy. Now, if you know what you're doing, I don't remember this exactly because I don't compete in leagues that race the Gen 6 anymore. I used to do super speedway leagues a lot, a year ago, and I did that for quite a few years. And the way it was, depending on whatever the model was, depending on what car it was, that you would lean either the left side of the car out or the right side of the car out to cool the oil or to cool the water. I don't remember what it is on the Gen 6 right now. You can push as hard as you want and not blow your motor as long as you're leaving half of the car, or like just, a quarter of, like, you got the front bumper, then you got like half and then a quarter. You just need like, a quarter of your front bumper. You just need the grill exposed and you won't blow up. That's how you can do it. You can do that in the sim right now in A open. Go ahead and push it. It's not that hard. It's really hard to blow up motors if you know what you're doing in the sim. But yet again, these drivers don't really know how the sim works or what little nuances you have to do to make sure you don't blow your motor. And so these drivers are blowing motors really easily. They're overheating really easily. I think 286 is your oil temp that you're in the danger zone there. And that's the main thing these guys have to worry about, cooling the oil temperature down, and that's very difficult to do if you get it that high. You basically have to you have to get out of the draft completely. You have to have no cars in front of you. You have to have clean air, and you have to just basically let the pack by to cool your car back down. That is what is going to cause the issues tomorrow in the race. I think it's going to be people overheating, trying to cool their cars down, not knowing how to do it successfully, and wrecking. I think that's how most of the wrecks are going to happen. And then last main note is just not as many people practice, as I said. People really weren't showing up. They're not really taking this seriously. Bubba Wallace isn't even racing. He just flat out be like, hey, I don't enjoy this. I'm not going to race, not going to be there. So, at least Bubba's honest there. I do know a few driver plans from just, checking out different things. People were talking here and there. Junior does not want to start up front. He wants to ride in the back. Chad Fitcham in the 49 car. I would imagine that he rides in the back. I don't see him really pushing. I see Chad easily being a guy that you can play. I don't think he's going to wreck. Bowman is going to be very aggressive. He's been aggressive all through the week. He's been up in the front no matter what the practice was, no matter what the race was. Bowman was showing his aggressiveness. He went through the field in every practice race I saw. Same thing with Garrett Smithley. These guys are wanting to be up front. Denny Hamlin, the same. So I would imagine, just from the guys that have seen practice, you're going to see Bowman, Smithley, and Hamlin up in the front, or trying to be up in the front this race. Parker Kligerman could go either way. He's been up in the front, but I think, I don't know, it's a toss-up between Kligerman. I'm not really sure what the main plan for Kligerman is going to be. The other guys that I have notes written down, I don't know if this is true or not. This is kind of just my, my intuition or whatnot. Keselowski's been struggling here and there. He's caused a few wrecks this week. He doesn't know where the left rear or right rear quarter panel of his car is. So Brad Keselowski, I would be cautious about. Let's see here. Ryan Blaney could go either way. Not really sure there. Clint Boyer, I don't really know what Clint's going to do. I thought he would ride in the back and be safe. Last week, he was not. I mean, he's been struggling quite a bit this week. In some wrecks here and there. Halftime he was drinking and drunk. Put on a good show for the fans, but for a fantasy aspect, not too keen on Clint Boyer. Not really interested. Kyle Busch, I like. I think Kyle Busch is a safe play. He'll be aggressive. And then, I'm saying all this stuff, safe plays or aggressive plays and all that. Anybody can wreck. You already know that. You don't need me saying that. I'm just saying what I think these guys are going to do. So, Kyle Busch is going to be aggressive. Labonte should ride in the back. Eric Jones should ride in the back. DiBenedetto, don't know. Logano, don't know. Byron, I don't know. Gordon, not playing Gordon. Unless he starts in an all right qualifying position. Not interested in Gordon. There'll be way too much ownership. These fucking Gordon fans are all over the place. If you don't know me, luckily, I didn't really have to talk about him a whole lot when I started making my articles or my videos because he weren't there. I'm not a huge Gordon fan. I don't hate the guy. I don't understand. I mean, I understand the fandom and love of Gordon. I understand. He's just not my guy, man. I'm just not a Gordon person. He's not a bad guy. He's a part of a lot of NASCAR's biggest stuff. I understand that. I probably would have called him gay back in the day because he had the Rainbow Warrior flag, but hey, who isn't a little gay here and there? You know what I mean? So I don't know, that's not a bad thing here and there. But yeah, I think Gordon's ownership is going to be astronomical. I mean, these fucking Gordon fans are everywhere. People are going to hop on DraftKings just to play Jeff Gordon. I guarantee you. And that is not what I want to be a part of. Tyler Reddick, not too sure. LaJoy, not too sure. McDowell has been riding in the back of the packs that I've seen this week, but those packs have only been like 10 guys, 12 guys. So I don't know if he's going to do that in the field of 38 or 39. Not really sure. Cole Custer, don't know. Ricky Stenhouse, don't know. Jimmy Johnson, don't trust him. For the same reason as Gordon. I don't want to be a part of that ownership right now. Yaley, not sure. He's been pretty piss poor in the qualifying races these past weeks because he hasn't been in the main show. He's just raced the heat races or the qualifying races, and he's wrecked in everything I've seen. Timmy Hill, all right, probably aggressive, but somebody's going to be aggressive. Somebody's going to stay in the back. We got to figure that out. Landon Castle, Landon Castle is probably a safe play no matter what he does. Bell, not sure. Suarez, not sure. So those are the drivers. Now, let me hop into the things that I have that I talk about ownership. Well, we're at 18 minutes. Maybe this will be like 25-minute video. Let me bring up my pictures that I have here. And let me see here. Let's see, I talked about the draft model, crashes but no yellows. Okay, so we're going to talk about a lineup construction. And so I'm going to bring up these things, or these images right here, and I'm just going to kind of talk over them as they're up there. So here we go. Let me bring this over here. Man, I'm so professional. I got everything great. I'm all good to go. Okay, cool. So now this is stuff I've made in the past. I've just added my logo there because somebody stole it last time, and they were like, "Hey, check this out. This is what I said." Fuck you, asshole. This ain't even accurate, percentages. This is just what I'd use for my visual example, or like so I can see it in my mind. But anyway, so this is a 20-car breakdown of what I look at for ownership percentages. Say if this was a duel. I know it's not a duel, but I'm using this as an example so I can bring up my next picture and you can see how my mind works. But this is the way I look at things if I expect a a crash field race or a plate track where I think it's important to play guys from the back. So if this is a 20 car field, this is how my ownerships, let me see if I can go full screen here, because I don't remember how to go full screen. Nope, not, oh boy, oh no. Well, all right, let me bring it back up here, because I'm dumb, and where is it? Oh boy, I'm dumb. I'm very dumb. Oh no, I don't want to share it either. Oh, what a catastrophe here. Oh boy. All right, we're not going to go full screen here. How do I go? Are you kidding me? Oh, there you go. I was like, where's the slideshow? That shit changes every time. I apologize for that. That was embarrassing. Let me make sure. Oh boy, I don't want to. There we go. And make sure it's showing. Okay, now that I've wasted your time for 2 minutes straight. Anyway, so this is the way I'd break it down if there was 20 cars here. And if I was supposed to play guys from the back, I never play the last 6 guys here. But this is the way I would break down my ownership percentages, or my interest, rather. I would assume that driver A has the fastest car. It'd be like a Denny Hamlin, a Brad Keselowski, a guy that I know is going to lead laps. If I wanted to get off of this driver starting first, that's where I would go to driver B. All the guys in the back, driver T, S, R, Q, P, all these guys over here, this is what I would make my main construction out of. So if I was making a lineup with 20 guys in here, say for a dual race or something stupid like that, probably 4 of my 6 guys are going to come from probably 14th on back. That's why 65 is the highest percentage that I would go on somebody, and even here it's a bit rough. But this is how I would break down an ownership percentage if it was a 20 car field. Now let me go to a 40 car field so you can see how this breaks down even further. This is just an example so you can see how my thinking is. So technically in an ownership race where there's 40 cars, if it's a crash fest, this week I'm probably going to play a whole lot of lineups. I don't really want to on eNASCAR. But knowing that I have 3 guys starting in the back, I already know how to construct half of my lineups for a vast majority of things I want to do. This is a bit, the top up here is a bit dated. This is something I made last year just so I could see. So it's not a die-hard, like, don't buy these ownership percentages. And they're not really even ownership percentage. It's more of a percentage of what my interest is in all these positions. Anyway, so we're going to break it down. So this is where I'll start talking about other things related to this, and I'm going to show you how it pertains to this image. So the lineup constructions, the optimal lineups that I see happening, I'm trying to figure out what the percentage, because you have, who are the 3 guys starting at the back? The 3 guys from Richmond last week. So that would be Byron, Hill, Kligerman, I think. I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. But those guys are going to start last. I understand this is 40. It has 40 cars, there's 39, whatever, but you get the point. So if those 3 guys don't score a lap, because DraftKings has said they're going to start where they're going to count the starting positions wherever the people qualified. So the top 10 who get inverted, if you qualified pole and you start 10th, guess what? DraftKings is counting that you started on pole. DraftKings said they're going to take the qualifying times from everybody, regardless of the inversions or people getting put in the back. So I don't know if that specifically means that if Byron takes a queue time and qualifies 7th, if DK is going to start him as 7th, or if they're just going to watch that, if they're going to tell those 3 guys from Richmond to not qualify, and those are the only 3 that don't qualify, they automatically start 39th, 38th, and 37th. I'm not sure. I got to figure that out. I'm recording this at 3:15 Saturday, all right? So there's still some fluidity and information getting around. There's still plenty of time. Anything can change. If something comes up and this is dated, well, that's just how it is. But let me see. Yeah, it's Byron, Hill, and Kligerman. So, Pockrass, earlier today, he tweeted the 39 cars for the NASCAR series, blah, blah, blah. Qualifying is 2 laps at 12:50 Eastern. The telecast and slate locks at 1 p.m. Eastern. The green flag is supposed to be at 1:14. Byron, Hill, and Kligerman won't qual. They will start at the rear. He does not say if NASCAR or iRacing is asking them to not take a queue time because it's easier for them to get you to the back if you don't qualify, or if they're going to qualify for pit position. Because, I mean, yeah, you might want to have a pit stall that's farther up here, even though it's a shit race. It's going to be a crash fest. They might qualify for the pit road selection, because pit road selection is determined by where you qualify on iRacing. The top 10 in qualifying will be inverted, which is like I said, whoever gets pole position starts 10th. So if that's the case, this is what this video goes off of, is Byron, Hill, and Kligerman starting the last 3 positions. Now, if you talk about optimal lineups, what is the optimal, or what is the chance that these 3 guys are in the optimal lineup? Let's say, for example, and I'm not going to say, Byron's going to start last and blah blah blah, but the points that 39th, 38th, and 37th starting positions get, if those guys, I'm assuming, because I'm talking projections right here. So the guys who start last, let's say they're projected to get top 20s. At 20th position, 39th place gets 43 points once he gets to 20th position. 38th gets 42, 37th, 41 DraftKings points. If you project those 3 guys who start in the back for a top 10, 39th will get 63 points, 38th will get 62 points, 37th will get 61 points. That's based off of them starting in the back, and you have them projected for a top 10. So that's just the number that's made. If they cross in the top 10, that's how much they have. So there, say if those 3 guys, let's say they all get top 10s, just those 3 alone, 61 plus 62 plus, whoops. I could have swore I had this here. That's 186 points between those 3 guys right there. So I would imagine that the cutoff line in most GPPs it's probably going to be like 240, 260, 270, maybe, depending if you stack guys from the back and what the optimal lineup is. I don't really know. So do you start your lineup construction, and I'm talking GPPs, I don't give a fuck about cash. So if you're looking at GPPs, do you need those 3 guys? Do you have to start your lineup based around Byron, Hill, and Kligerman? I think there's like a 60%, and this is just me kind of yapping here. I'm not using like a real breakdown. I think there's like 60% chance that those 3 are in the optimal lineup, and so that helps us and hurts us. It's if you watch National Treasure, if you're into conspiracy theories, the clue is there. The clue is that you need those 3 guys in your lineup to be optimal. The other clue is, like, who else do you go with from there? So let me move on to this. And I'm not really going to talk about this. I put it in here because I was going to speak about it, but we're taking too much time here. This is just my 40 car breakdown. If there's names that draw ownership. So if you go back and look at my last image here, all my percentages are pretty even. They fall off at a good rate. But say if you put Keselowski in at 18th, surrounded by a bunch of nobodies that don't know what they're doing on a plate track, his ownership 18th would go up from 20th to 40th, and he'd draw ownership from other places. That's what I assume is going to happen here. So if we're talking about the lineups, this is what I'm referring to. So you have to concentrate your ownership on the top 3 from Richmond if you want to be quote-unquote optimal. The only way these guys don't hit optimal is if they're in a wreck. And if they're in a wreck, you're going to want to pivot to guys who also have a high potential to get you good DraftKings or good DraftKings points. And I assume those pivots would be, or the main pivots that you could use would be positions 36 to 31st. So say if you're playing positions, or let me go back over here. Let's see, do you need to play one of these guys? How do you approach this race? Do you do a 6 for 6, stack all 6 guys from the back? Do you do a 4-2 where you get 4 guys from the back, 2 guys, from halfway up? Do you do a 2-2-2? So like 2 guys starting 38 to 30th, 2 guys starting 29th to 20th, 2 guys starting 20th to 10th, and then 2 guys starting 10th to 1st. How do you go about this? And if you're playing from the back, what's your cutoff? If you're like, well, I'm only playing guys from the back, well, what's the highest on back that you want to play? 23rd on back? That's what I assume for most people. My quote-unquote would-be cutoff, if I was going to limit myself to only playing guys from the back, would probably be around 16th. What I like to do is I typically do a 4-2, so I would do 4 guys from the back, 2 in the front. From what we've seen from the, the replacements race on Wednesday and just other plate races throughout NASCAR and stuff, usually there's 2 to 3 guys that start in the top 13 that finish in the top 13. From the top 10, it's usually 1 guy who starts 8th forward will finish there. Everybody else will move back. So typically you need to find that 1 guy, 1 to 10th, who's going to finish up in the front. You need to find that 1 guy, 10th to 20th, who's going to get a top 10, and then so on and so forth. So I know I'm talking a whole lot here, but you can see from my image here what I imagine the vast majority of people are going to do, or maybe not. Maybe I just overthink this type of stuff. I'm not really interested in positions 1 through 10th, regardless of who they are, because they're doing the inversion here. I don't think you need that. I think this is going to be a horrible race-wise. I think it's going to be a stack from the back type of race. There's only 70 laps, not a whole lot of fast laps, not a whole lot of laps led, not a whole lot of dominator points, really. It's going to be place differential. That is the only way you're going to make points in this race. So knowing the upside that those 3 Richmond guys are going to get you, do you play them or do you just play 2? Say if you play positions 38th and 37th instead of 39th, do you play 34th? And then do you put that with 31, 30th, and 29th, and all that type of stuff? And why am I being so vague about, who's driving here? Because when I approach these races, I don't care who the drivers are. I'm playing starting positions. I play positions here, mainly because we only have about 15 minutes until we know where we only have 15 minutes between when qualifying is over to make a lineup. So you have to know what positions you want to go to beforehand. And then from that, do you pivot off? Like say if, I know Junior's wanting to start from the back. Let's say if Junior starts 31st, does that take away ownership from the 3 guys starting last? Or does he just become the 4th chalk play to where you have to play, 39th, 38th, 37th, and then Junior starting 31st, and then everybody else is, they have like no ownership. This is a type of race, a type of slate, a type of weekend that you have to play ownership and you have to play the projections right to be optimal, because that's all I care about is taking down a GPP. You can cash really easily. If you want to cash, make your player pool start from 28th to 39th. That's it. There you go. You can cash easily with that. I'm trying to take it down, so I'm trying to figure out what the percentages are between people playing the chalk plays, people pivoting off of good drivers. I don't know if I'm making sense. Hopefully I am. I mean, this is how I approach a lot of these plate races. Usually I just have driver names that I can use, but this is how I look at it on a simplistic level. I mean, I have more notes for myself here that, that detail my train of thought and all that here. But for the podcast for this week, and I figured I'd kind of do a visual idea, or like show you what I think you should do. And that's pretty much it. I don't know what time are we? I had to get out of OBS for a second. So we're at 33. My bad. No, it was still long as shit. I apologize, guys. This was still a long podcast. But yeah, it's play guys from the back, play place differential, and all it's going to boil down to is who you have in your lineup related to place differential. I expect a lot of big wrecks. I expect not a lot of cautions. So a lot of good guys are going to be taken out in a wreck that isn't their fault. The wildness that the sim gives us, the unknowns that the sims gives these drivers, you have to try and play that. You got to figure out what people are going to do in that situation, and just how you're going to approach it. I have other videos that I talked about in the past related to this. Every time I go to a plate track, I talk about this in depth. So if you want to go and look at my Talladega construction from last year's fall race, it's the same thing. That goes into more depth of how I approach this type of stuff. Or the July race. I mean, the Daytona July race is typically the most wild and wreck-filled cup race. If you want to look at those races in the past to see what was optimal there, you can do that. I think that's about the only race you could really use for history or like an idea of what's going to happen. Unless you want to look at a truck race at the plate tracks, those guys typically wreck a whole lot there. or just go on Racing Reference, look at the biggest clusterfucks and biggest wreck-filled races in real life and see where the guys started who finished up in the front. It's typically not the guys who start up in the front. Maybe one or two. Everybody else is from, like 20th on back. So you got to try and figure out who you're playing from there. I mean, this yet again went on for half an hour too long, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how I approach this type of stuff. Hopefully it works for you. If not, well, I still made it so I can go back and listen to myself yap, Sunday morning and do all that type of stuff. I'm playing a lot of lineups this weekend, at least in the 1 and 25 cent. I'll probably do maybe 8 or 9 lineups in the $10 contest. I'll probably do 30 or 40 in the $1. Probably 30 and 40 in the 25 cents, just because I think there's not a lot of edge here. There's not a whole lot of information, but knowing, and if it's not a wreck fest, just know I'm gonna lose a shitload of money. But knowing that it's a wreck fest, I can get ready, see how I want to approach it, and what positions from the back I can play, and then as soon as qualifying is over, see what drivers are there, if I need to pivot off those guys, or who has the big names. I'm just going to play low ownership. People that I think are going to be low owned, I think that's the way to go here. Or if you want to play the 3 guys from Richmond and then throw in 2 just darts, I mean, that might be the way to take down the GPP, the 110,000. Play the 3 guys from the back, throw a dart, like whoever starts 7th. So that's your 4th driver. And then throw in, whoever starts 17th and 31st. I mean, that could be how I imagine that's the type of lineup that's going to win that big GPP. It's going to be something like that. So all I'm going to do is try and predict how I can make that lineup and then get it made in 15 minutes. And then the 40 lineups that I'm going to make before, I'm going to make some lineups today and not even change them. We'll just see what happens. That might be more useful than anything this weekend, just seeing how things happen. But thank you for listening. I know it took forever to get here, but I do appreciate it. You guys have been listening. I'm getting more views now and all that type of stuff. I don't ask people to subscribe or like, I do this for fun. I'm not monetized, though. I'm not making any money. So, I mean, there's that. But I do appreciate you guys watching and all that, and I've been having a lot of fun. This year it's a shame that the coronavirus is really destroying a lot of stuff. We started off very hot in the real life racing, and as soon as that comes back next month, hopefully it comes back, I'll be making videos for every series again. But thank you for listening. I'm gonna cut it off this time for real. Best of luck tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much.